Thank you so much. All right, good afternoon. By my clock, I have 1 o'clock. So welcome everyone. My name is Juanita Campbell, and I'm your CAB administrator and your CAB facilitator today. I was telling James earlier that I may introduce myself as him because this was previously his role. But I have to honestly say congratulations to James because he is now our DDFO, and he's sitting next to Edwin. So again, welcome to everyone, and welcome to those online. And thank you all for being here. Please remember as we go along throughout the day that if you make comments, especially sitting around the table here, that you need to speak into your microphone very close. Don't be afraid to get all up in that microphone. That way the folks online can hear your comments and your questions. Later on, when we have comments from the public, same advice. Please make sure that you speak into the microphone that's located over there right in front of the entrance to the room. Thank you. Phyllis?
Welcome. This is the September meeting of the Citizen Advisory Board for the Savannah River site. All right, I'm not doing well with this thing. It is too close, I think. I have the same problem you do. My voice carries way too well. So anyway, I will officially open the meeting, and we're going to start with introductions, right?
Absolutely. If the board members will please introduce themselves.
Starting with me.
Yes.
All right, I'm still having a problem here. I'm Phyllis Britt. I'm the chairman of the Savannah River CAB. I've been on the CAB for 4.5 years. And my background is totally not technical. I was a teacher, and I was a newspaper reporter, and then an editor. So my perspective is a little different.
Candace Cave, I am the vice chair of the CAB.
I'm Scott McKay. I'm from USC Aiken. My background's chemistry. I'm first year.
Ken Sajwan, Savannah State University. I'm a professor in environmental science. This is my 4th year serving in the CAB.
Don Colson, Nuclear Materials Chair. This is my 2nd year on CAB, and I'm a former combat engineer from the Marine Corps.
John Thomas, CAB, and I'm FDSR chairperson.
I'm Greg O'Quinn. I'm with South Carolina Department of Environmental Services.
Hi, I'm Susan Fulmer. I'm also with South Carolina Department of Environmental Services.
Edwin Deshawn, Deputy Manager, DOE Savannah River.
James Tanner, also with the Department of Energy at Savannah River Site, and your board's DDFO.
Pat Kilroy. I'm a new member this year to the CAB. I teach Sunday school and roll cigars.
Kim Ray, Waste Management Chair.
Hubert Von Tool, CAB, Chair of Long-Term Missions and Budget, and retired military historian.
I'm Marty Ball. I'm on the Nuclear Materials Committee.
All right. Thank you all so much, CAB members, guests. We deeply appreciate all of the time you take with us. And now we'll have our chair update. Phyllis?
Okay. Sorry, Phyllis Britt, CAB. Unfortunately, this one is going to be a little long. I had the opportunity to attend several different meetings that are important to what happens here. First of all, I hope everybody got here okay and found a parking place, because it's not easy around here. I do want to report that one of our members has found it necessary to resign. Ken DeLagle, is that how you say it? Kevin DeLagle, right, sorry. I have that right there. Anyway, he apparently right now has his hands full with an aging mother who is not doing real well. And he was trying to figure out if he could work around it or if he could come back later, but unfortunately, either you resign or you don't. There's not an in-between, so maybe he'll apply again when his situation changes. Since our last meeting, I attended virtually a meeting of the Nuclear Waste Technical Review Board, which was held in North Augusta on August 29th. It was interesting and very well done. It was a lot of the stuff that we talk about all the time. If you're interested, the entire meeting, which is about 7 hours long, is available on that committee's website. Since 1987, the NWTRB has been charged with evaluating high-level waste and spent nuclear fuel and their disposal. They toured SRS while they were here. Among the topics were DOE nuclear energy's reprioritization of storage, transportation, and disposal. They looked at ways to communicate decisions to the public at the latest federal efforts toward a consolidated interim storage facility and consent-based siting efforts, and on what efforts to collaborate with DOE Office of Environmental Management on waste acceptance criteria and a timeline for a deep geological repository program, which began with the designation of Yucca Mountain in 1987, and Yucca Mountain was defunded in 2008, and so we still don't have anywhere to put the waste. There was a lot of conversation about limited funding and limited personnel toward consent-based siting for a central interim storage site. I don't know when it becomes permanent, but right now they're looking for somebody who's willing to step up to the plate and say, yeah, put it here. You may remember we had some information on that somewhere along the way. There are 13 regional consortia which were established to work on a consent-based site that's somewhere to put the spent nuclear fuel and to put high-level waste. During that meeting, committee members over and over acknowledged that communication is very important in finding a place and getting the community on board. So far, they reported there are 2 potential communities, but the states in which they reside are not sure they're interested in this. Meanwhile, H Canyon is the only large-scale nuclear chemical processing facility in the United States nuclear complex. I also participated in a roundtable discussion of community-friendly terminology when talking to the public about consent-based siting. The Center for Nuclear Technology Awareness, a local group, is part of this region's consortium on consent-based siting, and the roundtable made an effort to figure out how to rephrase some things rather than use the buzzwords we're used to, which cause alarm, such as criticality and nuclear waste. If there was a way to refer to those things in some terminology that's more positive when they do, because what they want to do is do a survey and get kind of a feel for how the community feels about it. In addition, I attended the CNTA monthly breakfast where the topic was licensing advanced reactor technology for domestic deployment. The speaker was a fellow from BWXT who discussed microreactors, but when pushed, I asked him what they were doing with their waste when the time comes, and he said, well, pretty much what's happening at SRS. They're storing it on site in hopes that someday there'll be some place for it to go. The 2 meeting days, we'll get a chance to look at a couple of proposed recommendations that deal with a similar topic. In this case, the federal government compensating locales for continued temporary storage of spent nuclear fuel and high-level waste until a consent-based site is established. And finally, Candace and I will be in Oak Ridge next week for the semi-annual meeting of the chairs of the various CABs throughout the United States. More on that later. Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you, Phyllis. Sure. And now we will move on to our agency updates. So first up, we have the DOE update.
All right. Is this good enough? Can you hear me? All right. Welcome to Columbia. We're very glad to be holding this meeting today at the University of South Carolina. You know, as the capital of the state for South Carolina, Columbia has always been a tremendous partner for the Savannah River site, and we're definitely excited to be here to provide this update. I'll begin with a status on some of our programs and projects. Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative. Construction is well underway on the campus of the University of South Carolina, Aiken. The project is 85% complete, with 147,000 man-hours of construction work performed safely and without issue. AMC is on target to achieve the next major milestone, which includes the completion of the permanent enclosure, the exterior walls, and the roof this calendar year. Structural steel installation was completed on November 8th. Installation of the interior building components along with interior and exterior walls, doors, frames, glass windows are continuing. The building's electrical systems, ventilation, and plumbing installations are continuing. AMC's completion is scheduled for early summer of 2025. The Savannah River National Laboratory is progressing with the facility planning documentation for security, operations, and maintenance that are required for occupancy and for the lab startup schedule. Another component under Savannah River National Laboratory is a leadership change. You may have heard this week that the director, Vahid Majidi, announced his intention to resign effective January 2025 to make way for SRNL's next visionary leader. SRNL anticipates a job announcement for the position this week. DOE appreciates Dr. Majidi's efforts at establishing SRNL as an independent national laboratory with a bright future. We look forward to working with the new director to build on Vahid's successes. Under the budget, we're expecting Congress to pass a continuing resolution, or CR, for FY25. The House version funds a 6-month CR through March 28, 2025. the Senate is expected to produce their own version as well. Landlord transition. We're continuing our planning activities and things are continuing to go smooth. Landlord transition will occur on October 1st, 2024, and I'll be going into more detail in the transition when I give a briefing later on today. Nuclear materials. LA is continuing to see spent nuclear fuel shipments from both domestic and foreign research reactors. H Canyon continues to make progress with the accelerated basin de-inventory, and they completed 7 dissolution batches for FY24. In addition, SRS started H Canyon's 6.3 electrolytic dissolver and has completed 2 of the 18 dissolution batches of the fast critical assembly material. K area. The facility continues downblending operations and has completed 125 for FY24. I'll note that 39 of the 125 that were completed were EM plutonium material items. SRS has completed 33 of the 28 planned in FY24 for the K area PU downblend materials. So, transuranic waste shipments to WIP. SRS has completed 57 shipments to WIP as of September 12 for FY24, and 24 from E area and 33 from K area. The site continues to make weekly shipments to WIP. Liquid waste. The liquid waste program continues to make significant progress repairing and replacing infrastructure and process equipment to support future operations of the salt and sludge waste processing facilities. Also, the liquid waste program is exploring innovative tools and techniques to complete tasks such as using drones for inspections of tanks and designing, building, and installing longer crossflow filters to improve the SWPF processing rates. In July, SWPF processed a near record gallons of salt waste with good performance also seen in DWPF and ESD. The program remains on track to complete the liquid waste mission in 2037. Just a few more summaries. With the preliminary cease waste removal, or PCWR, for Tank 10 now complete, work continues to prepare Tank 10 for operational closure, or OC. Activities continue to accelerate the completion of the PCWR FFA regulatory milestones for Tanks 9, Tank 11, and Tank 15, which are in the water table. Achieving these milestones will significantly reduce risk in the tank farm. Liquid waste received approval from the DOE Aviation Manager to use an unmanned aircraft system, or UAS, for the innovative in-tank flight program. Using flying drones instead of tethered crawlers is demonstrating improved efficiency of the performing tanks inspections for both the tank interior and the annulus. The inaugural flight was completed to inspect Tank 9's annulus. The flight proved that greater visibility over what was seen in the crawlers was possible. Additional flights within Tank 9 are scheduled in September to complete the annulus inspection. Liquid waste tank farms continue to have a great record for safely receiving, storing, preparing, and transferring liquid waste. Work continues on 18 tanks which are in various stages of design, construction, waste removal, or heat removal to support waste processing through SWPF, DWPF, and the in-stream delivery facilities. Preparing tanks and preparing salt and sludge waste batches can take up to 36 and 48 months, respectively. To avoid feed breaks, it's important to keep at least 2 batches for salt waste, one in salt waste qualified and ready for processing. The next accelerated basin de-inventory transfer from H Canyon is expected in November 2024. Samples have been pulled to qualify the allowable fissile concentration that may be discarded into salt batch 11 as part of the next ABD window transfer. Preparation of an additional sludge tank to support this transfer is underway. Highlights from SWPF. We're excited to report that In July, a near record of 394,980 gallons of salt waste was processed through SWPF, and over 331,363 gallons of salt waste have been processed since the start in August until now. The fiscal year total of 2,612,757 gallons of salt waste have been processed through SWPF, contributing to an all-time cumulative total of over 9,748,956 gallons of radioactive salt waste processed since the start of SWPF hot operations. In support of the goal for faster risk reduction, SWPF is processing salt waste batches with a record high curie concentration. This has helped accelerate removal of radioactive material from the aging tanks and getting it into inherently safer waste forms such as glass or saltstone. To illustrate, compared to the same time last year, SWPF is removing and processing radioactive material from the tank farm that has 23% more radioactivity. As part of the SWPF Climb to 9 initiative, new and longer crossflow filters have been designed in order to support improved filtration to achieve higher salt waste processing rates. The long filters are on track to be installed by spring of 2025. The Defense Waste Processing Facility has produced 40 high-level waste canisters in FY24. In spite of several operational challenges, this year, DWPF has increased its capability to support SWPF operations by maximizing the SWPF strip, effluent, and monosodium titanate sludge soils loading in fewer canisters. DWPF completed implementation of the improved and optimizations schedule for FY24. These changes now allow sludge receipt adjustment tank, or SRAT, cycle time to be reduced from 7 days to 5 days, which will allow more efficient use of canisters and boost overall production. Glass waste storage building number 2, double stacking modifications are ahead of schedule, and double stacking canisters and glass waste storage building number 1 are also ahead of schedule. At the end stream delivery and the saltstone production facility, they have stabilized over 4.3 million gallons of decontaminated salt solution by combining it with slag and fly ash to produce over 7.5 million gallons of saltstone this fiscal year. In July, SPF set both a single day and a week-long processing record. The consolidation of the EFT and SPF operations continue to be a success. The saltstone was in place in saltstone disposal unit number 6, and SDU 7, 8, and 9 are operationally ready to receive saltstone when needed. The effluent treatment facility continues to treat and, as permitted, to release excess clean water back to the environment through regulatory discharge points. Construction on the final set of the salt disposal unit number 10 through 12 is progressing well. SDU 10, they're adding on the columns, walls, floors, and roof inspections and vertical post tensionings and hydroblastings are complete. Horizontal pre-stressing is now complete while the shotcrete installation continues. Installation of the balance of plant components such as electrical components and supports for the steel bridge is continuing. For SDU 11 and 12, work continues to install the mud mats and to prepare for the cell construction. Under the Assistant Manager for Infrastructure and Environmental Stewardship, SRS signed a second solar lease agreement on August 28, 2024. DOE signed a realty agreement for Amoresco Incorporated to design, construct, own, and operate a 75-megawatt solar power generation facility on SRS land leased from DOE. This lease follows a similar lease signed with Stellar Renewable Power earlier in August and raises the total solar power generation capacity at SRS to 150 megawatts, or enough power to meet the needs of almost 20,000 homes. The solar facility will be located on approximately 260 acres, and access will be from Highway South Carolina 125. The next steps include completion of the environmental and cultural preservation studies for the leased premises and an analysis of the impacts of the interconnection of the solar facility to the Dominion Energy grid. Construction of the facility on the site is not expected to begin before early 2027. F area material storage building for 235F demolition and removal are continuing. The demolition and removal of 235-1F and the 235-2F refrigeration buildings was completed on August 22nd, 2024. Removal of the S1 and S2 supply fan ducts is ongoing. Removal of the ancillary facilities equipment will allow more efficient access to the 235F building when the in-situ decommissioning begins. SRS feral swine aerial reduction project planning. The SRS feral swine aerial reduction project plan is expected to continue into late 2024 and into 2025. The successful SRS pilot project was conducted last year, eliminating 249 feral hogs. USDA and the Plant Health Inspection Service funded an activity and is coordinated through the United States Forest Service, Savannah River. And this is to achieve a rapid reduction effect on the reproduction potential of the local population of the feral hogs. Cooperation across agencies and SRS programs will help continue this successful project. The operation will resume as soon as December. That concludes my report, and I'm now open for questions.
Any questions or comments for Edwin? John?
Thank you for the presentation. I had a question on the double stacking. You said the double stacking was ahead of schedule.
That's correct.
What's it ahead of schedule on? Is it processing to get there, or is it?
No, it's just the whole activity. You know, whenever you plan something, you have a plan schedule, and then you execute. And what we're saying is, in reference to the plan schedule, we're ahead of where we should be. And for both of them, for glass waste storage building number 1 and 2. That's correct.
Okay.
Right. So, but yeah, it's a good news story for us. As you know, when you embark on a new project, anything can happen. So in these two cases, we're ahead of schedule, and it's a great design change for us to be able to do 2 instead of 1 until a national depository is determined. Yes, sir. But good question. I thought you were going to ask about the feral swines or something like that. But
Well, that was the feral pigs. How many feral pigs were it?
Huh?
How many feral pigs did you get rid of?
In this last campaign, it was 249.
249.
Yeah, but as you know, they reproduce, they do a lot of damage.
Right.
And this is just an innovative approach to safely eliminate that.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Marty?
There have been a number of seismic events in the Aiken area. Are the tanks hardened, prepared for something more significant, or are they likely to spring a leak?
Well, so the tanks were built back in the 50s. So our goal is to get them out and get them empty and get them resolved. But they're inspected, and I'll kind of reach back to my counterparts if they would have a better response. But it's something we watch and monitor, particularly, these tanks have an annulus, so we're able to inspect, and as we talked about, the drones that we're using to fly around inside the tank to look for leaks, to look for any challenges that may challenge the integrity of the tank. So, but we have the right folks looking at that. We have seismic folks that evaluate those criteria. So,
okay, so they are checking.
But I want to be transparent with these were built in the 50s. They're not like the SDUs now that have the latest engineering approach. So, but we are concerned. We do the inspections. We ensure that we monitor tank levels to ensure we don't get above a leak spot. But that's a good question. And what I could probably do, maybe get some more information on that in regards to recent activities and tank integrity. So, okay, thank you.
All right. Pat?
What about the new tanks?
Yeah, so they're newer and better. The SDU, and they're above ground, okay? And so these other ones are in the ground in the water table. These are 1950 vintage types 1, 2, 3. So totally different approach. And the materials going into the salt disposal units are decontaminated salt waste mixed with fly ash and slag. So the radioactivity, all those things aren't present like they are in the tank farms. So, but yeah.
but it's the old ones that are the issue.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's why the liquid waste mission is our number one priority, getting those tanks empty, getting the radioactivity into a better form like the saltstone or the vitrified in the canisters. So, yes, sir. Any other
All right.
questions?
Phyllis, did you have a question?
Phyllis Britt, Cab. I was just wondering, exactly how do you get rid of feral pigs?
I was, yeah, so, and I'm going to reach back to Miss Karen Morrow, but the latest is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, we utilize the helicopters, correct? Right. And we use a sharpshooter. So they fly across the site, and they pretty much pick them off. It's fast, efficient, safe. But yeah, that's a good. I thought you were going to get to that, but yeah, that's how they do them. And then, as you know, they drop where they are, and then we've got the decomposers come through and do their thing. But ultimately, for the type of work we do, how we remediate the ground in areas, and we do things that we want to remain intact, they can wreak havoc on areas, and so, and not just us, farmlands, other things across the community. So. But that's how we do it. So this program will be reinitiated and continue to go well. But it's safety was applied to it. The pilot, the plan, the shooter, those kind of things. But yeah, they took down 249.
One reason I ask, my son works at Horse Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Okay.
And one of his jobs occasionally is to go around and take care of whatever feral hogs he finds.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately tells the story of shooting this hog 3 or 4 times, and then they load it on the truck and take it somewhere. And when they got wherever they were going, they had shot him in the head like 3 times, and he was still alive.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredible. And you
so a sharpshooter from up there, I'm amazed they could do it in one shot.
Yeah. And I've seen, where a lot of folks design traps where they lay food out and something will trigger and try to drop a net. But they're very smart, hard and difficult to catch. But this approach has been effective for Savannah River. And I'll respect to Karen. Did I miss anything or say anything incorrect? Okay, good. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Pat?
Yes.
I was hoping you would just tell us the places not to go eat barbecue.
Oh, yeah. These ones don't. Yeah, they don't leave sight. Once we drop them, a lot of things, the vultures, other things get to them. So, but yeah, they're not leaving the site. But I can't comment on barbecue. I'll pick that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Edwin? Thank you so much for the update.
All right.
And now we'll hear from EPA, John Richards.
Yeah, John Richards with EPA Region 4 Atlanta. There's 4 of us here today. Barely made it through the parking situation. But we are on a college campus, which I always respect. So sorry being a little bit late. Not too much going on. With the 4 of us here, we're very excited. Supposed to have a new intern with us to go on a site tour, South Carolina, and the site on Wednesday. Looks like we're going to go to many areas that will be good for us all to see. And then actually Janet Dawson, who's lead for our tank program, will be coming back over next week when NRC does their saltstone inspections, where they're wanting to see the actual pouring, I think, of the mud flaps, which is like 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. I said, surely we can wait till the sun comes up to go. We don't have to observe it for 8 hours. But anyway, that'll be next week with NRC and I'm sure South Carolina as well. In terms of our CERCLA documents, I've currently just approved I think I've told you before, we have 5-year reviews. A typical Superfund site, you have a review every 5 years after a remedy has been selected, like a ROD. So usually, except for Savannah River and Oak Ridge, where we have one every year because we have so many remedial decisions in the past. So we've just approved the one for all the remedies that any kind of native soil cover. I'm trying to remember how many, 12 or so. And then DOE will finish up that, and then it will be sent around for signatures that will go from DOE first into South Carolina and then to us. That has to be signed by December. And then about that same time, which is usually by the end of December, we get the next 5-year review, and this will be groundwater remedies. and then we'll start reviewing that and walk down to that in February. So that's how that typically goes. And I think that's all I have today.
All right. Any questions or comments for John? No?
And yeah, we've seen many hog fences because of the fun hogs at our 5 review walkdowns. So.
Thank you so much for the update, John. Moving right along, SCDES, formerly known as DHEC update, Susan Fulmer.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Fulmer with South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, and I have a few updates for you this afternoon. First, the inspections that we've conducted since the last CAB meeting for our RCRA, our Resource Conservation Recovery Act, Federal Facilities section has conducted the annual comprehensive groundwater monitoring evaluation that was just conducted last week, and that included the inspection of post-closure facilities, including remedial and groundwater monitoring systems, cover systems, and records. Also for our RCRA Federal Facilities section, they have been reviewing the Mixed Waste Management Facility post-closure renewal application. So that one is still under review. From our Bureau of Air Quality, a couple of air permitting updates. The NNSA air permitting, the start of construction notification was received in June of 2024. And also in June, the construction permit was issued for the surplus plutonium disposition project. For meetings, John mentioned a couple things that we have coming up. The liquid waste tour, which will be DES, EPA, and I think some NRC representatives will be coming out to do a comprehensive tour of the liquid waste system Wednesday this week. So that should be a good tour of the whole system and a long day. An early start for that one. We appreciate DOE putting that together for us. And then next week, John mentioned the NRC is coming to do their inspection, and we will have our solid waste folks participating in that tour or inspection of the saltstone disposal units. Any questions for me?
Donald?
Yes, Don Colson, Nuclear Materials. Surplus plutonium disposition that you just mentioned? Tell me more.
I will tell you what my sheet says. And we can certainly get some more additional information from our Bureau of Air Quality. So my understanding is that the air permitting for that project, increased the maximum plutonium potential throughput, and it superseded a previous construction permit. Maybe DOE has additional information.
I'll jump in just to help out, and I want to be cautious. I'm not with NNSA, but this is an NNSA project and program. You may be familiar with the dilute and dispose, or where we take material down, blend it. So this project is going to add more capacity, glove box, add some shifts to be able to increase the production of that. But it will be in the K area facility, which is a robust nuclear facility on site. But it's just adding that capability for NNSA to increase. And there's some EM material in there that we do as well. So, but this is an NNSA project. And if you'd like, we can definitely get you some more information on what the surplus plutonium disposition project is, the scope, the schedule, those kind of things, that's allowable.
It's within the projects we've already discussed. There's down blending and
yes, yeah. So yeah, when you're talking down blend, so this is just to add another glove box and more shifts to be able to increase the capacity. It's not a new facility; it's just adding to what's already
to include the NNSA contributions.
Yeah, so it's a joint collaboration between EM and NNSA because we both have material, but it's to down blend that material.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Pat.
Pat Kilroy. Does this increase?
Pat, excuse me, I'm sorry. Could you speak into the microphone for us, please?
Sorry, Pat Kilroy, CAB. Does this increase the total amount of nuclear material at SRC?
I don't believe it increases. What we're trying to do is downblend what we already have. But I want to make sure I'm answering you correctly. When you say increase, the intent is to...
I'm talking about the agreement between South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't believe that's the case. This is to add an adulterant where it can't be used, so we're downblending the effectiveness of it being used somewhere else. But yeah, good question. Yeah, we don't want to touch that. There are agreements in place. Yeah, this is to put it in a form where it can't be effectively used by someone else.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions or comments for Susan? No? Thank you, Susan. Moving right along, Georgia EPD update. Shelley Stansel? No? Oh, okay. Oh, well then we'll move on. Now we'll move on to our committee updates. We'll start with facilities disposition and site remediation. John?
John Thomas, and my committee is, my co-chair is Carolyn, who's not here, and as well as Nate, who's not here, and Pat is an honorary member of my committee. So that's my committee. What I request is that everyone take a look at our presentations back from May and see if there's any efficiencies, because we had the forestry come in and give us an overview on their fire management and their natural resources. So we want to see if there's anything there that we can help on. And then we got the split from DHEC, which split off to DPH and DES. So if there's anything there, if there's any redundancies, anything at all, please take a look at those presentations. And anything with the new landlord, the NNSA split off, please take a look at those. And then I've been looking in detail at the groundwater, the whole idea of the active, passive, and natural type of cleanup that they're doing there. So just take a look, and if there's anything that that you can help out with, or you think we can work on to improve efficiencies, please let me know. And that's my update. I need help.
Thank you, John. Nuclear materials, Donald Colson.
Oh, and Pat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Pat.
Pat has a list of questions. Is this the appropriate time for that?
Okay. Moving on.
Then let's jump to Pat, since nothing's been dumped or blown up or anything since last meeting, so I don't think I've got any updates for nuclear materials. But Pat does have a lot of questions. I'll turn the microphone over to Pat.
Okay.
Pat, please turn your mic on. Thank you.
Okay, just for you. All right.
Thank you.
First of all, you have to understand where I'm coming from. I'm on this committee for one reason, and that's to protect South Carolina and its future. And that's it. My background is engineering, so you know where that goes. And I've listened to things, and one of the first things that got me was that PR and C canyons, they were filled with grout. And I started reading, and they're not filled with grout. They're just filled with at the swimming pool level, or whatever you want to call it. That's good. And then the second thing, which will shock somebody in the back of the room, I was told that there was vegetation growing on the top of these buildings. And so from my perspective, I see the building, and it has a flat roof on it, unless I'm wrong. It looks flat to me, the pictures I saw. And also the presentation that was given the last time about the grout used inside the buildings was excellent. But it does not address the top of the building. And supposedly, we're taking these buildings and we're taking them down, and they're not going to be used anymore, and they're going to be stored for eons, and we're going to have this stuff in here, and there's still nuclides and plutonium and traces of it inside the buildings, and we're supposed to protect the building. Whether we're dead next year, or 10 years, or 200 years, and who knows where the world's going, but there probably will still be inhabitants. So I sat down. I thought it would come up at the last CAB meeting, but it didn't, but I had about 9 questions. And sorry, but I felt they needed to be answered. The first one I had, we need to view pictures of the vegetation growing on P, R, and C. And I'd like to see pictures of it after heavy rain. We need drawings of the roof structure to the above buildings and the material used. We need view inside these buildings if they have any standing water. Do they have water? Is there a place for it to drip inside these buildings in the stand? Because my example is with concrete, I don't care when it was made, if it doesn't run off and if it stands, eventually it's going to react with the concrete, standing water on concrete. It just does. And I really got a wild one down here. Can we visit the roofs?
Okay. Okay.
And I'm not from Missouri, but, you know, I just, show me, convince me.
Gotcha.
Now, what is the finish on the tank seals made of in a cross-sectional drawings? And what I'm talking about is the new tanks that we're storing the liquid waste in with the grout and all. What is the tank seal on those buildings? What is it made out of?
Yes.
How long is it going to last? This is my whole bottom line with everything. How long is all these protective measures going to last? And then I go kind of different, but how much solid nuclear waste do we have right now? That's just thrown in there. Another question is kind of weird. How much cesium? You know, every meeting we go to, we hear about cesium, but why is there so much cesium? You know, continuously, and the way we dispose of it. And the other thing is all these new tanks we're making, and we're putting the nuclear waste in, what percentage in these tanks total is plutonium or other nucleotides, actinides? What percentage is the other question? And now here's the real zinger question for the whole thing. How much damage would a 2 kilogram C4 safe charge do to a finished tank top? And I don't know if y'all are familiar with C4. It's probably the most explosive material we have. I thought it was something else, but I even looked it up. And a shaped charge is something you drop down, you put on something, and the way it's made, it goes like crazy. That's what they use for Abrams, you know, tanks and all. Like, shaped charge is about the only thing to go through it. And then you probably ask, where did you come up with this 2 kilogram shaped charge C4, right? Today, you can buy a drone that'll carry 2 kilograms. You could pre-program it, and it costs $1,100. Considering the state of the United States and the people we have in it, we have a real threat that exists right now. And that's the way I see it. So all these structures, everything we have, and the drones, I don't know what the capabilities are, but I look at, you know, the Iranians, they build a $50,000 drone, and it Because it takes us a $2 to $3 million Patriot missile to shoot down a $50,000 drone, which is not very good. But these are concerns I have, and I would really like these answers. I want them answered. I want these things answered. I really do. And I've got copies of these if anybody wants them.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm in order. Am I allowed to?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, Mr. Kilroy, thank you so much. I can really feel the passion in your voice about your impact here, so really appreciate that. And first, I want to thank you for recognizing our team for getting with you with your initial question. So it's our intent here is to delve into these concerns and get back with you as well. And just some of the things, and I won't answer, I'll make sure we capture them, but just want to give a little bit of perspective, because I was around when we did the CP and R reactors, and basically we deactivated it, and for low areas, the basins, those kind of things is what we backfilled. So, but when you see a shot of a reactor, I don't know if we've got a photo of that, it's not a flat facility by any means. It's got all kind of peaks and things of that nature, but we can definitely, can't take you up there, but we've got HD video drone type things that we can give you a true sense of the type of vegetation that we're talking about. And it's not like trees or anything like that, but we do inspect, we do things to mitigate that. But I do want to make sure it's not a flat roof, and those are CP and R reactors, and so I just want to be clear on that term.
But my point was, do we need to redo the roofs?
I don't.
Long term.
Well, what we can do is provide you with that response. When the deactivation initiative was embarked, it was designed for long term. I can't quote how many years down the road, but the main thing is we got all the hazards out. That's part of the decommissioning and D&D activities. There's a whole procedure and manual how we mitigate, get the hazards out, and then come back and backfill to make sure it's safe and secure. So we will get those questions. I see James has them, but we want to make sure you're clear that we're going to get back with you. I don't want you to think, because we addressed the first time, and we appreciate your concern here. I'm trying to see if there's any other thing. You mentioned a little bit about the other tank. So what we have in F and H areas are the tank farms. There are about 50 tanks that are underground, 1950 vintage. These newer salt disposal units is where we take the decontaminated salt solution, which is basically,
That's my real concern.
yeah. So those are, when I say decontaminated, these are almost no activity, and we mix it with fly ash and slag and put them in these above ground tanks, but they're basically cement blocks. It's a cement type structure. So we mix it and it's stored there. So it's solid, it's not transferable, and we monitor the ground, the area around. So it's a much safer form than being in a liquid form below the water table. So that's a huge improvement, but we could definitely share some more information with you on that. Now, getting to the state of the society and drones and technology, that's a security type question. We do have a robust security posture, as you know. If you've been on site, so you've seen the guns, dogs, whole nine, the technology, things you don't see. But the site has a robust process to ensure things like drones and all those are captured and caught early. And so those of you who work on site, we get the announcement, hey, there's a, and it could be somebody, but they still catch that and they alert employees. So there is an approach that's put in place to ensure that the people, public, and environment are protected against those kind of things as well. But so do we need anything else? You got the questions? I think we're good? So give us an opportunity and we'd appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not trying to be.
No. I think it's what we can definitely, because you're probably asking questions other folks may have. So, is that the bell to hurry up?
No.
There's somebody saying, Edmund, shut it down. Okay, yeah, I got it. Oh, that's my boss. Okay, he's like, shut up. Okay. But the main thing is we want you to know your concerns are appreciated. So, thank you.
I do my job.
Yeah, you good?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your questions, Pat. Anything else, Donald?
We're fine.
Okay. Let's move on to waste management. Kim?
Thank you. Waste Management, Kim Ray, Chair. We've been looking at reviewing the liquid waste system plan revision 23P. We were requested to make some suggestions for clarity and easier comprehension, so we're still looking at that. There's also, we were presented with some options about there possibly being a way to help them make tank closures more expeditious if we could possibly address the public comment period, which is currently 30 to 45 days. So we're going to talk with our subject matter experts on that to see, why it's 30 to 45 days, if there's any, reason for that specific period, if it's bound by state law, federal law, whatever it might be, and if there's any way for us to suggest a shorter period. So we'll continue to work with them on that.
All right.
That's all.
Any questions or comments for Kim? No? All righty. Long-term mission and budget. Hubert.
Thank you, Hubert Von Tool, CAB and LTMB. First of all, apologies to Mr. DeShong. That bell was my phone, and I was not trying to cut you off. I just want to make that clear. Only thing I really have to point out, LTMB has 3 recommendations coming to you. And before you start to pelt me with your agendas, that is because there was one that was on the agenda in July, but we were not able to vote on it. So I'll be talking more about that this afternoon.
Thank you, Hubert. Any questions or comments? All right. Well, we are definitely a little ahead of schedule, so if y'all would like, we can move along, or we can go ahead and take our break and then come back. What would you like to do?
Move along.
Move along? Move along? All right, well, let's do it. Edwin, if you're ready, would you like to?
Give him a second.
Long as he doesn't give me a bell and tell me to shut it down.
Oh, not a problem at all. Let's just give Edwin a few minutes to get mic'd and take a break. And forgive me, at the top of the meeting, I did not ask you how you all were doing today. This is actually my first CAB meeting as your facilitator, so thank you for having me. But how is everyone? Good? Yes? Wonderful. We are definitely happy to be here in Columbia. I know there was much concern about the parking situation, but we all survived. We did. We can put that down as one of our badges on our little vests. I survived USC parking. Is there anybody here who actually went to school here?
All of a sudden you were there.
Did you go to school here? Hey. I'm an alum too. So that's an exciting time. You ready? All right.
Want me to stand over there?
You can stand wherever you like. And so now we will have our site lead transition update, Mr. Edwin DeShong.
Okay. The site has been here for a very long time. We're coming up on our 75th anniversary. During that time, the missions have changed. We started as a bomb plant back in the day for the Cold War, and then we transitioned to environmental cleanup. As you know, we've got several federal partners on site, some being U.S. Forestry Service, OIG, some of the others, but the other main one is the National Nuclear Security Administration. And they've got 3 entities on site, non-nuclear proliferation, the project office, and then they've got their field office. Primarily, the field office produces components for nuclear weapons. I was fortunate enough to work for that site office a couple times over the years. And so they've got a tremendous mission. So NNSA has a more enduring mission. I think Mr. Kilroy referenced the state of our society. And a part of ensuring we've got robust nuclear materials and things for our nuclear surety, we've got to have the ability to produce materials and components and equipment to supply our military. With that being said, the environmental management mission is to clean up. We talked about the Feral Hearts kind of, so where our thing is to clean up, put it in a form for future generations. But NNSA's mission is a more enduring mission. For example, the SRPPF facility, once built in 2034, 35-ish, will run for 50 years, making plutonium pits to go into weapons. And so our leaders in DC decided, hey, it's now time to transition the landlord of this 310 square mile site from the Office of Environmental Management, who is led by my boss, Mr. Mike Budney, you've seen many times, to the National Nuclear Security Administration, led by Mr. Michael Michelanis. We're both still under DOE, but one has a different mission than the other. So given that enduring mission, it's appropriate and fitting for NNSA to pick up the contract for security, the contract for the M&O, take care of all the peripherals. When I explained it to my family, it was kind of like, you've got someone moving into an apartment, they pay the bill, but the landlord keeps the infrastructure going. That's the case here. So the EM mission will continue. There won't be any impacts. We're just transitioning over about 85 individual FTEs that do landlord functions now to continue to do them for NNSA. Nobody's losing a job, still same DOE, paycheck, same office, pretty much location. It's just the mission for landlord functions are moved from environmental management to NNSA. So I'll go through my slides. That's just my kickoff tip there. Where do I point? Okay. So when we talked about our leaders in DC, this memo was kicked off back in October of 22. I was fortunate to be a part of that team that helped build and design the execution of this. But the intent was to transition stewardship responsibilities from the Office of Environmental Management to the National Nuclear Security Administration, and to make it seamless. The good thing about it is it's a federal to federal transfer function. So it doesn't impact the partners. They're still doing their work as designed, as just reporting structure for DOE's change. And the key date that was decided was for FY25 or October 1st. So we've got a couple weeks to go. We're almost there. A lot of work went into planning and designing this to make sure it was done. And we've done several briefings here as well as other community forums to ensure everyone was aware of what was going to happen. All right. All right, so 4 major areas. The M&O contract. And when I explain to friends and family, what do you mean M&O contract? So the site has about 13,700-ish employees, right? Not all work for the feds. They work for our corporate partners, SRNS, SRMC, BSRA, Forestry, a lot of the other groups. But the M&O contract is done by Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. The key thing is they do they're like the kitchen in a 5-star restaurant. Everything comes and goes through them, is why I explain to folks. And many of the functions that SRNS does are called service level agreements. Everything is executed through them for the most part. That's why this contract was extended prior to transition to ensure it would be in place when transition occurred. Next, ProForce. Mr. Kilroy talked about our posture for security. So the guns, guards, gates, the security posture contract is transitioning, just like the M&O contract, to NNSA. So we'll still benefit from those, but the contract owner will be NNSA. For the M&O contract, we'll take a minority role with NNSA. K area, and that's where someone asked about surplus plutonium disposition. Great question. So NNSA has a lot of missions that occur in K area. And y'all have had the site tour. You've seen K reactor, right? Have y'all? Anybody been to? So you've seen it. So that entire area, everything within it is going to NNSA. We still have some material there, but the responsibility for K area, that's where the majority of our resources for security go, to K area. Will transition over to NNSA. And then lastly, my boss, I always get on him because he's got perfect hair and I'm bald, right? But he is directly liable for over 500 environmental permits to our regulatory folks here. They don't call everybody, they call one person, right? And something happens. So that responsibility on October 1st will move from Office of Environmental Management, Mike Budney, to Michael Michelanis, NNSA. That's key. And it's important for them to have one person responsible. So that'll occur. But basically, these are the things that counts for responsibility and management for everything. We did a plan of action and milestones, built in a lot of assumptions. One of the things that I got to be careful what I say is, but working with the federal government, budgeting and planning, we've got a budget cycle that starts planning a couple of years in advance. But nobody can say there's going to be a lapse in funding or that kind of stuff. We just have to kind of be smart and say, hey, in case something happens where the government does not agree and get a budget passed October 1st, there are a lot of things that were built in to ensure the transition happened smoothly, that employees were not affected. So that was built in. And DOE EM will continue to stay focused on our liquid waste mission, nuclear materials mission, environmental cleanup mission, and our lead for the national lab. So all those things will continue to flow. And that plan right here is a public plan. I'm sure if you want it, we can get it to you. It's out on the web. It's free and clean. You can get all the details on that. There's a picture of it. All right. So the key thing is, most important resources is people, people, people. The mission's important, but people are always important, right? And so, we have to focus on some key areas: retention, staffing, vacancies. There are some things built in to ensure that things remain the same. For example, I can get a job done with 20 people, right? Mr. Kilroy can say, well, I need 40, Like, wait a minute, let's just say, So it's those kind of agreements were built in. And we kind of talked about no increase in FTEs. So with federal employees, it's full-time equivalents, or 2,080 hours of a working person doing a job. And so we've executed the work with a certain number. When we transferred employees over, it should be able to complete the same level of work with the same number of people. We're going to have a job fair to address some of the changes. If there are vacancies that NNSA needs to fill, that'll be addressed. There's a communications plan that was rolled out to the public, stakeholders, all federal employees, regulatory folks, letting them know that this was happening. And we've got a plan to address vacancies, and there was a staffing plan that was a part of it. But the main thing is we informed that nobody would lose a job. Many times you hear with base closures and other things don't always go well. Somebody maybe on the East Coast get moved to the West. Well, this was just a limited federal Fed transfer function, no change in location, nobody would be required to move, and just to make it seamless. So that's the purpose of this one. All right, and so we've all seen this slide here, but years ago, this number would have been much less. But last year and year before, NNSA has paid for more work through the M&O, SRS, than before. Years ago, we were paying for more work. Now they're paying for more. And that's with the new facilities, new missions that NNSA is bringing up. And our scope should be appropriately going down because we're working ourselves out of a job. We're cleaning up. And these are all the mission areas we've always talked about for them. And tritium operations, those kind of things. And then work for other sites and other things, federal groups, we do that as well. So this is just a shot of how the scope of work looks today. And these are all the partners: SRS, Battelle, Savannah River, SRMC, Liquid Waste, Centerra, University of Georgia, and U.S. Forestry Service. All right, so this is another view. Up top are what we call, this color here, are all the federal partners. U.S. Forestry Service that manages it 310 square miles. Office of Environmental Management, this is us, Mike Budney, and these are the entities under NNSA. And you remember I talked about the five-star restaurant in the main kitchen? This is SRS. Everything kind of flows through them for service level agreements. What will remain under, what's currently under the structure now is this is how everything's aligned. The M&O contract is under EM. These are under EM. Everything's structured this way. Right now, this chart shows about 12,700-ish, and it's up and down. but just kind of shows kind of how the work is broken down before transition. This is a shot, and I'd like for you guys to kind of keep this because this shows what environmental management facilities are being managed. The National Laboratory, H Canyon, L area, the basin, the spent fuel, H and F tank farm. You talked about the CP&R reactors. Those are under EM. D area, E area solid waste, and F area. NNSA facilities are the tritium facilities, Savannah River plutonium processing facilities. What they will gain are the landlord functions, the roads, the water, electricity, the barricades, all of the peripheral areas, the security facilities. So those are the things that they will pick up. And these contracts are what are moving that we talked about. Proforce, South Carolina Dominion Energy, Amoresco, the site M&O. These are the contractual things that are moving. So this is one of the better snapshots if you want to keep that slide and say, okay, what's happening in transition? A lot of these blue things were under EM. Now they'll reside under NNSA, okay? And if you want to talk offline, we can. But this is a nice little snapshot.
Edwin, can we get a better? Can we get
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ours has
sure.
that picture. We can't see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's. Can we take an action to just get them this regular shot here?
Yeah. Hey, James.
Yeah. 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 That one. It looks great on your computer, but a printout is not the best. But just get them without the background. You got me? Yeah. Or if someone can give her a copy. Yeah. But and there is we got a chance to brief. So there's a better shot. But yeah. All right. So this is just another configuration of the structure. So when things are done, I'm sorry, this is the current structure, just another way of looking at it. The SRS contract is under EM. They do work for NNSA, and Battelle is under EM, does work for NNSA kind of, but these are the main ones that are under us now. When we change, NNSA will be aligned with the M&O. Now this little hop here is showing that we do have a minority role in that contract because they still do work for EM. The environmental cleanup mission is an EM mission that's done by SRS. So, but it's just the way we're structured. There's a lead for the contract and there's someone in a minority role. Okay. All right. But that kind of concludes it. That's why I did a little preface in the beginning. I hope that kind of gives you a better feel. But on the onset, it's a Fed-to-Fed transfer, pretty much seamless. We're transferring federal employees. We're transferring the EM budget that we use to manage the landlord functions to NNSA. And it's pretty much a seamless exchange. There are a lot of memorandums of agreement or memorandums of understanding that were developed to ensure that nothing was missed. So our partners, our regulatory partners, don't miss a beat in regards to what's going on. So I hope. Oh, man, yeah. What's your name? Is it Mr. Kittenhouse? Yeah, Mr. Kilroy. Yes, sir.
The only question comes back. I worked for the federal guy. I worked for the Navy for 32 years.
Oh, okay. You got any Rickover stories for us? Okay.
Matt, can you turn that on?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Pat Kilroy cab, but the thing that always comes back, we went through, in 32 years, we went through numerous.
That's right.
Numerous reorganizations.
That's right.
And the thing that used to always come back is there was a sense of direction where we were.
Right.
And then when somebody else comes in,
yeah,
do you lose your sense of direction where you are?
Gotcha.
Or do you all feel like y'all are okay?
Yeah, I think we're okay because a few things. We're all under Secretary Granholm. We're under DOE, okay? We're under one cabinet official. We do the National Nuclear Security Administration mission and the Environmental Management Cleanup. And there's some others that are in there too. But those are the key, and we've been on site working together for a very long time. It used to be called Defense Programs, but that same mission has been around, and we kind of know each other. There's great collaboration between both organizations. For example, I've worked for NNSA twice. I've been blessed, moved up, and greater responsibility, but the collaboration is there. So it's not like we don't know each other. We're on the same site. And more importantly, the M&O, I can't really emphasize enough how important SRS is. They're the main executor of everything that's done, right? And so when we align that contract appropriately to be in position where they're not changing over during transition, it made it seamless because now it's just federal employees exchanging roles and responsibilities. To the M&O, it's pretty much business as usual. That's very important. But kind of like in what you can describe, you know, base closures and those are huge impacts, right? This is nothing anywhere close to that. But you're right, having the same mission is important. We're partnering now on the 75th anniversary. I know Julie Peterson and James and team are working on that. But we've been together on the site for a very long time. And so it's really not a whole big change from my perspective. A good question, because there are transitions that are pretty tough to get through. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe Hugh Bear was actually.
I'm sorry. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, man, you should have threw something. You should have done the bell thing again.
I understand why you don't want to talk. I understand why you don't want to talk to me. Hubert Von Tool, Cab. There's one thing here that I don't quite understand. You know, environmental management are the experts on environmental matters.
Right.
With the help of the federal and state agencies, of course. The NNSA makes bombs.
Correct.
In your slide with emissions, you know, everything that is on the NNSA mission has to do with bombs. It's what they do.
Right.
So they're going to be in charge of the ecology lab.
That's right.
The Forestry Service. And what I don't understand is 500 environmental permits are being moved from environmental management, which manages environmental matters, as the name kind of implies, to the bomb makers.
Right, a great question. And I'll help untangle that for you. And just like the young lady here, is it Susan? Right. She read about some permits that are coming through her department for NNSA. For them, they just need one person for that. But what I'm going to describe to you is the federal group that has done all the success and has a great relationship with EPA and Department of Environmental Services. That whole group that does that landlord function is moving over to NNSA. So the same people that she's dealing with now, she'll deal with them. They're just functionally under a different federal group. They're still responsible, responsive. All those things are still in place. So,
but why can't they continue to report to environmental management, which can then report to?
Because those are landlord functions, just like the water, electricity. See, EM's going to clean up and be gone, but she's talking about a permit for SPD or SRPPF. Those are enduring missions where EM's goal is to clean up and to be gone. That's why the decision was made to, hey, landlord functions, given the NNSA, EM, you finish up, clean up, and I've shared some dates, but that's the true answer to the question. I know it seems a little counterintuitive, but the group that manages that, the synergy will continue under NNSA. It's pretty much a seamless transition. But from their perspective, they want one person responsible. And I'll be with them on Wednesday when they come on site and tour, those kind of things, but the same folks that help collaborate that will be doing it for years to come. And we'll still work with them. We still have things that fall under their purview. They still get, unannounced inspections and all the things that they do. But the functional role will go to NNSA. Just like the security guards. The guard he's not concerned with who's over. He still executes the same role. And so, but I hope I answered your question there. If not, just ring the bell. Okay. So Mr. Ball, yeah.
Yes, sir, Marty Ball. Who's Savannah River Nuclear Solutions? As in, are they a private company?
Yeah.
Are they publicly held?
Yeah. And so, great question. Savannah River Nuclear Solutions is made up of the partners are, you got to help me out. Huntington, Ingalls Industry, Fluor, and what's the last one?
Honeywell Spot House.
Yeah, Honeywell left. But they're a collaboration made up of some smaller partners that come together to execute this. But they're non-federal. They're a corporate partner for us. So some of their employees are Huntington Ingalls, some are, like I said, Fluor. But they come together, they bid it on the contract. They've done a tremendous job for us at the site for many years. But they're not federal.
So they're a private company?
That's
Are you
correct.
publicly held?
It's an LLC.
Yeah.
So it's a
Limited liability
LLC,
partnership?
Right.
that competes during the business.
Right.
We've had the business since 2008,
That's correct.
and it'll be recompeted here soon.
Right. So, and if you want, they're on the web. They're not, you can look them up, look up the president, Dennis Carr, who has spoken to this body before. But it's all available. Yeah. And that's why I use the term, I don't like the term contractor. I like the term corporate partner or federal partner. It's more of a, because they're more important than that. They're very important to our mission.
Okay, are they immune from freedom of information?
No, it applies to them just like any other organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my second question is, what's NNSA's interface with the Department of Defense, since they're making their bombs?
Okay. And so I want to be careful in my role. I can give you a general answer, but the Department of Defense and NNSA are integrally tied together because you may have heard of the NPR and some of the other things. What the Department of Defense sets is what NNSA executes to meet their mission requirements. So, and that's not environmental, so that's not my role there, but they're definitely tied together. Military leaders come to the site continuously looking at the processes, the people, the product, those kind of things. And there are several NSA sites across the United States. So this is just one of many that's here at Savannah River.
But they're still under the Department of Energy?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Does DOD provide funding for?
For NNSA, I believe so, but how that's done, I can't really describe. But they're together. Still, DOE is a cabinet group, DOD is a cabinet, so they work together, but they execute that national security mission. It's robust. So it's much bigger than what you're probably considering, because there's a whole complex of NSA facilities across the United States, just like there's a whole complex of EM facilities or national labs across the United States. Yeah, but it's not isolated if that's where you're going. Yeah, so, yes, sir.
Excuse me, if I could, Avery stepped up to the microphone. I think she wanted to make a comment based on something that was brought up earlier.
I did. Good afternoon, Avery Hammett, DOE. I just wanted to clarify that while the site's operating permits are transitioning with the Environmental Compliance Group as a landlord function, the cleanup agreements, the federal facility agreement, and all of our documents and the process and the relationships and everything that go along with that is inherently EM and will stay EM. So we will continue to have interactions with our regulators from the EM side, but just the overall site operating permits will go as a landlord function. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Believe it or not, we started at the same time. I lost my hair, but she's still. Yeah, we started together. Back
and we're going to come back over here to Phyllis.
Phyllis Britt Cab. I have a question on slide 9. Just a curiosity question.
Yes, ma'am.
That one.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the little green arc in the middle mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was referring to. So. And this is going back to the M&O contract, or Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. This is a huge contract because they execute a lot of the processes for all partners on site. And so for that contract, it has a majority owner of the contract. Currently, that's environmental management. That means that contract is with us, or EM. And NNSA benefits and gets work executed under that contract, but they're not the owner. However, and this is the post-transition list right here, right? So when that happens, this contract goes under NNSA. EM still has a minority role in that contract to get EM cleanup done, support liquid waste and other things. But we're still a part of it. We're just not in a majority role because they're going to take it for the future. So that's what that little things represent. Because if that was not there, it would say, well, the M&O has no interconnection with EM, and that's not the case. That work that Avery was talking about, the cleanup, L area, some of the other areas that we have that are still being executed by the M&O. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And why was the decision made? I've been curious about this. The current structure shows the lab under NNSA.
Correct.
It's the only thing the only lab in the country that's staying with EM?
Yeah, so this is a little bit misleading. So you see this line here? It goes up to, basically, the lab is not under NNSA. The lab is under
That's
the
what I thought.
It's misleading. It probably could have been under here, but structurally, the only tie that, per se, NNSA has right now is the M&O. Now, but what you bring up is a very good concern. Our leaders in DC said they wanted the lab to remain under EM direction.
Right,
So
that's
that
what I
will not
thought.
move over. And so that's very important because they could have rolled that under as well. Because the lab does work for NNSA. Yeah, it's just that contract, if you could think of this as a workforce reporting structure or contract structure, it's still under environmental management. So in this next one, you're going to see the lab is still directly under EM. The liquid waste work is directly under EM. However, all the others align under NS. But good question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right.
Pat.
Yeah. I don't. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Kilroy. Yes, sir. And yeah.
Other than feeling completely lost.
No.
No. I understand everything goes all these directions and everything. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, who's guarding the hen house?
So when you say guarding the hen house, that can mean a lot of different things. But I want to be clear, from the security standpoint.
Not just security, everything. The whole system here. Because we got a piece here, a piece over here, a piece of this, and this goes there, and this goes there.
Right.
Who's overseeing the whole situation and say, this is good?
So great point. What I will say is we're still under Secretary Granholm, Department of Energy. We're under one cabinet level organization. Now it'll divide out where you got EM and NNSA leadership, but we still report under one person that reports to the president. So the missions here, we're a huge site. If you've been around, so you know some of the sites are smaller, they may have more narrow missions, but we're a site with a lot of complex missions. We've been running for 75 years. There's a lot going on here and a lot of new missions coming as well. So, but everything is kind of culminated under one direction. That's our S1 secretary.
And somebody at the top looks down and says, this is good.
Yeah, they made a decision, yes. Not only that, they made a decision to proactively transition the landlord functions to an organization that's going to be around for quite some time.
I noticed in there it said 65 was the date, 2065.
So are you referring to a mission date?
Yeah, I saw it early on in the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Where was that?
I'd have to... let's see.
There it is.
You got me.
Defined end date of 2065.
Okay. Yeah. So that's when we talk about long-term planning for the site. This is one of the dates they incorporated. So this is saying, and I'll read it. It says, as DOE Environmental Management completes its cleanup work at Savannah River towards the defined end state of 2065, NNSA mission will continue to increase on site. So that date is referring to a mission end state. Like, for example, the liquid...
Is that a green date or something?
What I'm saying is so everybody's got a vision. We've got a vision for liquid waste, 2037. 2037 for liquid waste. That's the vision. So there's an end state vision they mentioned here. So all they're really saying, you remember in the beginning when I said the environmental management's goal is to clean up to a defined end state, but NNSA producing materials for national security, that's going to be enduring. And so what they're saying is, if you're going to clean up the mission at some point, it's appropriate and fitting to transition the landlord functions to that organization that's going to be around for a while. But who's guarding the hen house? As our Secretary of Energy. Okay. We're still under one single point. You can point a finger at that one individual that's responsible for that mission. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty.
Phyllis, did you have a follow-up question?
Yep. Oh, okay.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, I want to thank you. I'll be around today and tomorrow. So this is going to happen in a few weeks. So a lot of work has gone into it. You should not see any major change. This cab will stay under the direction of James and Julie, function as designed. So it shouldn't, this will continue. What you guys do is very important. So that's a big part of our mission. So, all right.
Any additional questions, comments? We good? Thank you so much, Edwin. Oh.
I'm sorry.
Phyllis?
Did you say, and I missed it, where Mike is?
Excuse me?
Mike Budney.
Oh, so Mike Budney is, he's doing some activities in D.C. with our bosses and leaders. So so yeah, if you're going to call him, say, don't ever send that Edwin guy again. Yeah, so if that's what you're going to be. Yeah, he is fully engaged right now. He may be watching on his iPhone, I don't know. But yeah, he just could not be here. But he does not like missing these. It's very important to him. And as you guys see him in the community, he's very approachable. So if you got any question that I didn't answer, you can.
Oh, I know. I recently told him I had questions at church. And
I
said, but I don't feel right asking at church. And
yeah, okay.
That's okay.
I understood. Yeah, just reach out to him in your own way. But yeah, he could not be here. That's why I'm kind of pinch hitting. So.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday morning. I said, when are you leaving?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was leaving.
Yeah, but he's probably watching. So, but thanks again. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you so much. You know what? Let's take a break. Let's take a 10-minute break. It is now 2:29. Let's be back in the room at, let's see, about 2:39, and we'll reconvene at 2:40. As everyone makes their way back into the room, we're going to go ahead and get started. Our second presentation today, ConOps Enhancements in SRS, Next Gen Operators and the Apprenticeship, presented by Nick Miller.
All right, mic check. Very good. Good afternoon. So my name is Nick Miller. I'm the Deputy Vice President for Environmental Management Operations for Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, mouthful. The M&O Edwin spoke of earlier, I work for that M&O, Savannah River Nuclear Solutions organization, and predominantly in the areas of operations for HKL, E&F facilities. We're going to be talking about ConOps today, and hopefully a little lighter subject than what we've been getting into here the last couple hours. Be interested to see what kind of questions you have at the end. But y'all have gotten the opportunity to be briefed on a number of subjects that are specific to our missions at Savannah River. You'll get more of that tomorrow. This is more about how we go about doing the work that we do. Less about what, more about how. So we thought it'd be important to give you a perspective of doing a lot of high hazard, very important regional, national, global missions at Savannah River, but how do we go about making sure those missions happen safely and securely? So Cognitive Operations is a program. It's a program that's designed to minimize the likelihood and consequences of human or system failures. And we do that by having a structured and deliberate approach to the work that we perform every day. So what that looks like in terms of everyday business, if you go to any one of our nuclear facilities, each of the missions may look a little different. What we're doing in each facility may look a little different. But as it relates to how we conduct those missions, whether they have our folks have procedures in front of them conducting work, whether as they do shift turnover, they're doing it in the same way with the same regimented process, how we communicate with our team members, how we go about doing log keeping, record keeping, how we manage our training. All of that is the same and falls up under the envelope of Cognitive Operations. And that is a DOE directed order. So we do it in compliance with DOE directives. It's a process that was modeled after the nuclear Navy, and we adopted it as part of the Department of Energy in operating these nuclear facilities. The nature of the work that we do warrants it because, again, we have to minimize the number of events and likelihood of any issues that may occur, and the rigor behind the process is really what gets us there. So in simplistic terms, I wanted to give you an opportunity to think of ConOps in terms of changing the tire on your vehicle. So when you think of, in this diagram in front of you is the nuclear work model. We use it to train our operators on a regular basis. It really simplifies conduct of operations in terms of how we actually execute the program. So think of changing the tire on your vehicle. There's really a couple different ways. Unfortunately, you're riding down the road and you have a flat tire. You have to think about how you're going to change your tire. One way to safely execute that mission would be to have a technical work document, a step-by-step instruction. You may not know anything there is to know about a tire or the car or where everything is located, but if you have a procedure that gives you the very specific technical guidance on how to actually change the tire on your vehicle, you can be successful without any supervision or without any prior training. Let's say you're a maintenance mechanic. You've done it 1,000 times. You don't need a technical work document. You don't need supervision. You are trained and knowledgeable and experienced in the process of changing a tire. So in this case, if you're a mechanic, you just go to town. You don't even think twice about it. You use your prior muscle memory, your knowledge, your training to execute that task. Let's say you have neither of those things, so you call who? You call AAA, right? And they show up. They have an individual who steps in and helps guide you, provide the necessary oversight and training to physically execute that task with supervision looking over you. So those are the tentacles, the primary tentacles of our ConOps program in a nutshell. What I want you to think of when you see this model is balance. So we're going to talk experience in a minute and how, like much of the industry, we've been challenged at Savannah River with the level of experience our workforce has. So our experience is smaller. What that really means is our supervision, our procedures need to grow larger in order to assume that same balance. And so we use this very model to teach our folks about ConOps. We use this very model in every pre-job briefing that we do before we go do a task every day. We ask our frontline management team, look at your model and think about balance and make sure you have the right people associated with the job. It's just one of those additional ConOps checks that we do before we go do work. So I spoke of experience. In terms of its importance, I kind of highlighted it on the last slide, but these numbers are pretty interesting. So I thought I'd share this with you because this is a reality that just about every contractor on every in every industry that's faced with today. The average tenure of our workforce went from 16 years in 2018 to 9 years in 2024. So that's a significant decrease in the level of experience of our operations workforce. I'll also draw your attention to the fact that we have 86% of our workforce that's new within their role in the last 5 years. So what does that mean? 9 in 10, just about everyone is new to something that they're doing. It may not be new to the site or to that industry, but they may have taken a new managerial position, for example, and they're new in that role. So we've got a lot of folks that are new and a lot of folks that are inexperienced. And it's not going to get any easier because over the next 5 years plus, as NNSA starts up and ramps up its missions, we'll continue to see a workforce that grows and remains inexperienced. So all the more reason why our ConOps programs are that fundamental to ensuring safe operations at our site. And that starts with hiring. So the very first thing we do when we hire folks is we start to instill in them the values of ConOps. Prior to 2019, we would hire folks and put them through a pretty rigorous 6-month training program, fundamentals program at our site. And that was effective, but we saw an opportunity to leverage specialization, establish partnerships with our local community colleges, and ultimately strengthen that apprenticeship onboarding process. And so the apprenticeship program was born. In 2019, we had 10 operators graduate from that program. We've since had 400 graduate from that program. It's a 9-month program. It is a share of responsibility between the technical college, so they get the individuals for about half that time, and then our facilities get them for about half that time. And so we're able to specialize in the specific fundamentals they need to best position them for success once they come to the site. But it also gives them some acclimation with our facilities, so when they come to the site, a lot of them already have a clearance, have seen the facilities they're going to work in, have met the management team they're going to work for. This is a no cost to the operator program, meaning we hire them as full service employees. They receive a full service wage, and then they graduate with a nuclear certificate at the end of it. So there's a lot of pluses for this. It's really a win-win. The operators are getting paid to learn and get a certificate, and we get a world-class operator at the end of the apprenticeship program. Once they graduate, they come to the facilities and they start on their journey for qualification. That sometimes takes up to 2 years, depending on the specifics of the position. So it's a very regimented, rigorous process. Starts with classroom training. So each of our facilities have systems, have processes, have safety features. We send our folks through those classroom trainings to get them educated on the specifics. And then we put them on shift with their crew, and we allow them to do on-the-job training to get a little more interface with the actual equipment, with the individual people. We actually have job performance measures. That's our means to essentially assess their ability to retain the information we're sharing with them. We then put them in the seat under instruction, which means we have a qualified individual standing behind them, but they're doing the day-to-day job. And that is, as we all know, I'm sure, is the best way to learn the business, is to actually do the job under the protection of another qualified individual standing right behind them. Do that for a period of time. And then at the end, they, once nominated, they stand in front of a group of the senior management team members, and they convince them they're ready to take that job through an oral evaluation. That's typically multi-hour. It's normally based upon scenarios that we provide them, and that's their opportunity to really demonstrate their readiness to assume that qualification. They receive that qualification, and then every 2 years, to maintain a high state of performance and proficiency, we put them through a similar process every 2 years just to make sure they're maintaining that qualification as we expect them to. And so their training doesn't end at qualification. I don't know if y'all remember, back in the day, you see someone on a unicycle and they've got sticks in their hands, and on top of those sticks, they've got plates. And those plates are spinning. Anybody remember that? What happens when those plates stop spinning? Plate falls, right? So we think of continuing training as our means to continually spin the plate, okay? It's our opportunity to keep the team fresh and focused on all things that are associated with their qualification. We put our folks anywhere from 4 to 8 hours once a month in a classroom and field setting, and they do nothing but training. There's fixed and flexible components associated with that. The fixed components are typically regulatory in nature. They're systems training, safety basis training, things that are specific that don't typically change. There's also flexible components. Those are mission changes, operational acceptance, operational lessons learned, operational experience lessons learned, various other things that are important for them that the management team wants them to know, kind of reinforce with them. Recent developments in our continuing training, one of the things I'll speak to in a minute is how do we sustain this? We invested a lot in our continuing training programs over the last year that center around those key elements you see on the screen. More involvement with our engineering organization to make sure that they're giving some of the training. They know the systems better than anyone, so putting those folks in front of our operators, giving them a chance to walk down the systems with the operators, trying to focus more on field time versus classroom time, which is better for a better learning environment for our operators. Our folks, when we train them, they know very well what to do, when to do it, how to do it. We sometimes neglect the why. The why is that deeper knowledge that we're looking to get our operators to attain, that centers around, okay, so you know what to do, but why are we doing it that way? And so we've spent a lot of time focusing on making sure they understand the why, not just the how, where, and when. And then we're a lesson learned and sharing organization. We spend a lot of time amongst the facilities sharing the things that we're training on. A lot of it is common, and so there's no need to rehash it, recreate it. You can share it. Some of the examples of things that we're doing in continuing training. So I mentioned sustainment. We have all these different fundamentals that we put in place. But how do we sustain that? One of the primary means is documenting our plans. We actually put together a strategy, and we refresh that every year. That talks through, based on what we're seeing and based on what we know works, what are the things that we need to do with our team to make sure we sustain ConOps. One of the things we value greatly is our management team's presence in the field. We talk about work perceived versus work achieved. The management team isn't out in the field watching work. They don't necessarily know if their expectations are being met. So we spend a considerable amount of time emphasizing the importance of our management team to be out in the field, observing the team, coaching the team, mentoring the team. That feedback then comes back into what we call management review boards, where we document all of the management field observations in a tracking system, and those findings, those OFIs, those opportunities for improvement get flushed out into a review board where we go and see trends. Hey, we've seen 3 of these. Maybe we need to go do something more with that. We do a lot of shadowing in our facilities. We like to get the SOMs, which is our second tier management team member, shadowing the frontline management team members. And there's a cross-pollination of opportunity for them to learn in doing so. But it's a lot about making sure the expectations are being met. And we also have coaching going on. We actually hire independent ConOps subject matter experts to come in and not audit the team, but to actually coach and mentor the team, build a relationship with the team, and then actually coach and mentor on a regular basis with our members to make sure they are maintaining a high level of performance in ConOps space. All of these elements, it's formalized in such that we put it in our schedules and we execute it. And we hold ourselves accountable to make sure we're doing those things per schedule. Lastly, we use leading and lagging indicators to assess our health of our ConOps plans and our ConOps performance. Mentioned the management field observations, mentioned the management review boards. We also have a number of assessments that we put in place specific for ConOps. There's about 25 functional areas across the spectrum of nuclear work, maintenance, fire protection, ConOps being one of them, training, nuclear safety, those sorts of things. In assessment space, we have a lot of assessments we do on ourselves, call them self-assessments. A lot of them are contractually required. We have a site SME who decides what assessments we want to do when, based on kind of the nature of what's going on, as well as when's the last time we actually did a real concentrated look at that specific area. We also have management-directed self-assessments. So our team will have, based on our management review board reviews, they'll say, hey, we need to assign a new assessment. We need to go pull this person in and go look at this particular leg of our ConOps program to make sure we're performing as designed, because we've seen issues in these other areas. And so as a result, we want to try to get ahead of it. I mentioned key performance indicators. We also have a site, what we call independent evaluation board. This is a group of folks who work for a different senior vice president than any of the nuclear facilities that operate under. And they have about a team of 15 to 20 folks that come in every 18 or so months. And for 2 weeks, they basically wire brush the facility in all functional areas. And their goal is to make sure they understand the true health of the facility. They report that out to our senior executive team, and then we go take actions according to what they find. And of course, we have a lot of federal oversight. Okay, nothing happens on the site by the contractor without the federal oversight in place. And so we get a lot of feedback from our federal counterparts as well on performance. So in closing, ConOps is about how we do work. It's not necessarily about what we do. We have a mantra with our staff, and it's about the how is more important than the what. How we do work is more important than what we do. You know, what we do is very important, but if we can't execute the how properly, what doesn't matter. So the team, whenever they hear me say that, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's really the heart of the ConOps program, is how we do work. Its foundations is established through our hiring and onboarding programs. It's sustained through our contractor assurance programs, such as ops excellence and monitoring and treading. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? Edwin.
I guess before the board tears into you, I just want to commend Nick on his presentation. And so I've been at the site 32 years now, and I came from an internship at South Carolina State University in the early 90s. But what I can tell you is the nuclear apprenticeship program that they have now is phenomenal. I've attended, spoke at the Aiken Tech, Augusta Tech, and the Denmark Tech celebrations, and it's a different paradigm. Before, when we came up, you go to school for 4 years and come out and try to get a job. But this is designed for folks that are in other career fields that may not have a 4-year degree, but are still talented, critical thinker type folks. And they can transition from a career into a job because, like Nick said, it's full salary. If you got a family and you going from month to month, changing careers could be detrimental. But a position that they offer like this, and it's all partners, SRNL, BSRA, and SRNS, they partnered and they have these participants. It's tremendous. It's probably one of the best programs I've seen because you come in and they teach you what you need. It's a complement between the technical school and the job. And Nick would give feedback to the technical school and say, hey, some of them are doing great here, some are not doing good here. And so it's like a collaboration where they get feedback, and it's continued to help fill some of the gaps that we're going to see in the upcoming months. And then the other thing, I recognize SRNS, they did the, you know, when you go to the college on a scholarship, they have a signing party and you get a hat and those kind of things. They had over 200 interns, yep. And they had a signing ceremony for those that accepted positions. So they're really innovative. The site is, all of our partners are innovative in how they're trying to bring new talent to Savannah River because it's an exodus. A lot of people, you know, me and Avery used to be the youngest on the block. Now we're pushing 30 plus years. And so we need new folks coming in. So commend you.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. I'm actually going to a recruiting event tomorrow in Jacksonville to try to pick up some retiring military servicemen and women. Jacksonville, Florida. I can go to North Carolina too if you'd like. Okay. So out on the desk outside, I left some brochures for our apprenticeship program because I thought it might be interesting to y'all to see. So feel free to grab those on your way out.
Thank you. All right, let's hear from Marty.
Okay, Marty Ball. So your employees are working with nuclear materials?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And what kind of backgrounds do they have? Are they nuclear engineers, or they're high school graduates, or?
Typically high school graduates. Some of them have degrees, but not many. Most of them are high school graduates who have experience in other industry, not necessarily nuclear. We hire a lot of folks from, for example, Bridgestone, Kimberly-Clark, some of these industrial environments, and we train them on the nuclear. They know they've already got a dose of ConOps as a result of their background, and then we train them on the nuclear piece.
Okay, and recently there was a shutdown of the process in the news where I guess somebody was replacing a valve or something and it scrambled the system. Were your people involved in that?
We thinking Plant Vogtle?
I don't know the name of the plant.
Yeah, I'm unaware of what you were referring to.
And Mr. Ball, yeah, you're correct, but this was a different partner. So they were. This was. He's referencing SRS, but I believe you're referring to an activity at another facility with another corporate partner of ours. But
it was at Savannah River site.
That's correct. It's at the Savannah River.
Apologies. Yeah.
Yeah. So he may not be aware specifically of the event.
We can certainly get you an answer to that question, though. I'm very familiar with the partnership over there. We can go.
Okay. And who are the mentors? Are they nuclear engineers?
They're not necessarily always engineers, but they're folks who have extensive experience in ConOps. They've worked in a nuclear facility. All of them have nuclear experience. All of them have ConOps experience, typically 30+ years experience. And so we're very selective about who we put in those positions based on their experience and also based on their demeanor. You can know everything in the world, but if you can't communicate it to a person, you're not going to be a very effective coach.
Okay, and the final one, why is there such a high turnover?
Great question. I wish I had an answer. I think there's a lot of factors. There's societal factors. If you look, I think you'll see this across all of industry. I think in SRS's case, we don't have, the answer really isn't any different or unique than any other industry that we've seen. Now, I will say this, the team has put in place a number of measures to try to curtail attrition. I think part of it is just retirements. We've had this age of folks retiring, and that 20 year or so veteran age, we, as the pensions, as we transition from pensions to 401ks, we had a lot of mobility at that point. So we see the 40-year veterans getting ready to retire, retiring over the last couple of years, and we don't have that next wave right behind them to backfill. So we're backfilling with folks who just have less experience than them. But there are a lot of measures that our team has put in place to try to maintain the people we have. I think the number I heard was for our, it's like $300,000 a person or something in order to replace someone with 2 years experience. Don't quote me on that number, but we pulled the statistics and we realized the importance. And so the measures we put in place, I think, are having an effect. What I didn't show on the screen is we've actually lowered our attrition rates over the last 3 years just based on those measures.
If I can add just a little bit on the point for Mr. Ball in regards to the challenge there. So there are several things at play in regards to Savannah River site. The last chart showed about 12,700 folks. But remember the new missions I talked about? So SRS will be partnering with NNSA, and they're ramping up about another 3,000-ish in the next few months. So it's not just that it's remaining steady. The demand for new folks is increasing. We also know that COVID has demonstrated that a lot of work can be done remotely. And so a lot of companies out of California say, hey, we want Mr. Ball to work from South Carolina, James Island, remote, 100%. Those type of things have happened. And so employees look into those kind of opportunities, but also just the normal attrition. Many of the folks are pushing 40 years, 40 plus years I've got an employee who's just hit 60 years of service. And so it's a great place. You don't get a lot of turnover from the standpoint of changing jobs. It's from they've done well for many years and they're moving on to retirement. And so, so Nick's program, what they do is try to partner these new folks with some of the experienced folks to get to this is why you stir and this is why you shake at this point in the procedure, because they don't have that knowledge. But if they're able to impart to it, it's tremendous what all of our partners are doing. So I hope that kind of shed a little bit of light.
Thank you, Marty. Let's move down the table. Kim, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And yeah, I do have some questions. It's stunning to me that 86% of employees have been in their role less than 5 years. I'm old enough to remember 10, 15 years ago where we had numerous layoffs in our community. And these people left and had to find jobs elsewhere. And I wonder now why those people couldn't have been retrained and been prepared to go into these jobs that needed to be replaced. Now, that being said, I mean, obviously we're here where we are today now. When I look at what your training force qualifications are and what these requalification requirements are, where you have the apprentice program, and then they have to go on and do oral qualifications and so forth. What do you do for employees or students coming through that process who may be neurodivergent and not necessarily performing at their best, where they have to do a lot of written qualification, a lot of oral evaluation in front of people? You know, you can bring them in, you can train them, they can perform the job. But if you ask them to stand up in front of people and perform, you're not necessarily going to get the best performance. Have y'all had any of that experience? Are you working with individuals like that? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so not everyone performs the same in terms of, standing in front of a room of folks and speaking, or standing in front of a couple of their peers and speaking. We've seen that. We call it boardsmanship. It's basically training them on not the material they're going to actually speak to in terms of the board, but the manner in which you approach a conversation. You know, one of the things we tell them is only say what you need to say and say nothing more, because the more you kind of try to fill the void, it's kind of like a job interview. The more you try to fill the void, the more you may leave the board to question. So it's rare that we hire someone with the intent of putting them in a position, one of these qualifications, that we don't actually successfully get them there. Some of them take longer. Some of them take 2 or 3 iterations, but we ultimately get them there. And that's through a lot of practicing, a lot of support from the team.
All right. Scott?
Scott McKay, SRS CAB. Nick, I was thinking about no matter what we do internally, and I'm aware of your program, it's a wonderful program there. It's always really important to have that strong review board, external auditors come in. The problem with external auditors is, in this case, a lot of the work is very much hands-on and at operation. How much does the review board get to actually see on the sort of the practical training side when they come in and review every, 18 months or so?
Yeah, the evaluation board, the independent, so they see everything we see. They are trained to have the same area accesses as we do, and they will come in nights, weekends. They will see everything. They see every nook and cranny in the facility and every operation. And typically these folks are the same. They have a pedigree of their functional area. They know they've been in that job. Those independent evaluation board roles are kind of coveted in that, you have to have a certain pedigree to be in one of those positions. And those folks watch everything that we're doing. There's nothing that's off limits for them. So it really does get a 100% look of independent review of the facility's performance.
All right. Michelle?
Good afternoon, Michelle Bush, CAB. And this is not so much a question as a comment. What you're talking about right here with that training and the ConOps. So I was worked out at the site for just a short period of time. I was in the training area, so worked in and through and with this, was a part of that team that collaborated with Denmark. We were initiating the connection between Aiken Tech and to do the training, classroom training with Aiken Tech, and then come back and work on site versus just having that group who would come in and just sit for 10 hours a day in the classroom. And so from what I've understand and what I see, that is working perfectly. Because I did work out, you guys don't hear me ask a lot of questions. And it's not because I know everything by far and could never stand up and articulate, but I know when these guys are up talking and sharing, I know what they're talking about, and I know that what they're saying is true. And I know the seriousness of it. I know that it's very seldom that anybody asks a question. I'm not saying don't ask the questions, that those questions are not already addressed on site. Nothing is taken lightly. Everything that you can ever think of is always talked about, and nothing is done quickly and simply. I can share, I worked in the E area, and there was a structure that looked like a fire tower, but it wasn't a fire tower, it wasn't and I'm gonna tell you, for more than 2 weeks, teams, 10, 15 people came and stood around that wooden structure. And I was wondering, what are they doing out there? They were right outside of my trailer. They were meeting from different areas, from engineers to construction, to decide what was going to be the best way to just to take down that little wooden structure. So that's the type of in-depth planning that goes into something before it's done. And so this, I understand now, you part of the team that I used to work with are now working off-site with Aiken Tech and continue to bring those guys in, not say guys, men and women. Somebody asked about, retention and whatnot, and we do. We don't always say it, but we have a different generation of people coming in, and it's not like the old school people who were out there for 40, 50 years. When I started in training, there was a guy already there who was 80 plus. I remember when I was standing in line on my first day, there was a guy who was 75. He said he had been out there, he was in construction. I went home, he had great grands. He said, I got bored, I'm coming back to work. But it is a different mindset of the younger generation that, that come in today. But the opportunities are there, the training is intense. Training is what is always done and what is always enforced, and the pay is great if you want to be there. So, yes, you're on point, my friend.
And we're hiring.
Yes, always. You're hiring, exactly.
That's right. We got plenty of
opportunity. If you know someone who needs a job, if you don't have a job, it's because you don't want a job, because they are hiring, yes.
Thank you, Michelle. And Candace.
Candace Cave Cab. So I was joking when I said about Jacksonville. A lot of times people say Jacksonville, Florida, but there's also a military base in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So I just want people to remember that because I lived there for a few years. Anyway, can you describe your exit interview process, and do you do an exit interview for just retirees, or is it for anybody that leaves after a certain amount of time?
So everyone is offered an opportunity to do an exit interview. Mm-hmm. That's typically an interview, a one-on-one interview with the manager. There's a list of questions, basically a sheet of paper that we provide our folks to use. That information goes back to our human resources team. We also, just to kind of add to that, we do stay interviews. So we actually meet with our team and on a regular basis go ask them, why are you still here?
Right.
What makes this a compelling place to work for you? And we learn a lot from those things too. And it is a very dynamic, interesting answer to retention and attrition, and a lot of things we've talked about all play into that. But sometimes it's just I want to have purpose, and I want to make sure that when I come to work, I'm able to provide value. And those are the kinds of interesting things that we're seeing kind of the shift to versus pay and ability to telework. All those things are still compelling, but that's why in our sustainment plans, we have things like all hands meetings. We require our staff to get in front of their team, every one of them, and have a conversation about what the mission is, what they're doing. Hey, by the way, the other week when you did that thing, it may not have seemed like flashy, but that now allowed another complex on site to do what they need to do to make this, this. So it kind of puts the puzzle pieces together for them. So we're constantly looking for opportunities to entice our team to understand their value and why it's important that they stay and the things they can do at the site long term.
Thank you. I love that you do the stay interviews because I feel like retention, people always think about it at the end when people are leaving.
Too late, yep.
Yeah. My other question was, so we know that growth is generally a bell curve. So when do we expect the employee hiring and internship training to kind of start to level off? Do we have a timeline for that?
No, other than it's not anytime soon. You know, in particular, the NNSA missions that are coming up at the site are going to be hiring thousands of people over the next 10, 12, 15 years. So it's not anywhere close to any time now. It's going to be pretty far out. You know, as Edwin said, you know, our mission in EM is to shut our facilities down, reduce the liability, and ultimately work ourselves out of a job. But one of the benefits of NNSA taking land ownership is they now have a direct responsibility to help facilitate the long-term enduring missions on site, and those will go on for an extended period of time. So I don't see them coming down anytime soon.
Thank you.
All right. Michelle, did you have another question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Do we have any other questions or comments from the board? Anyone? All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Nick.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
All right. Well, thank you so much to both of our presenters, Edwin and Nick, for presenting your information today, sharing your knowledge, and of course, overall, just giving us your time. We're going to move on to board business. Do we feel the need to sort of review the first recommendation about the NNSA liaison? I know that in our last board meeting, we did not necessarily have a quorum, so we could not vote, but do we want to make any comments about that, Hubert, or anything like that before?
I can give you the recommendation elevator speech if you want it.
Go ahead.
Okay. I promise this will be brief because I'm sure you all remember every bit of the deathless prose I hit you with last time. But this recommendation really has twin related roots, those roots being ecology and money. You know, nuclear technology has never been cheap, and it has created costs in both those areas. You go all the way back to the Second World War with the Manhattan Project, which was the second most expensive weapon system of the war, and also it left, of course, all sorts of legacies. General Leslie Groves, who ran that project, believed that you could safely walk through ground zero 30 minutes after an explosion. We've kind of modified our perspectives on that somewhat. And of course, as we have the vast expansion of the nuclear project in the 1950s, including the construction of SRS, it was successful in the sense that lots of bombs got built. But at the same time, it left behind an environmental cost that we've reached a point where experts are literally refusing to calculate how much it will cost to complete the cleanup, not so much at SRS, but for example, out at Hanford, poor Hanford. And now that we're having the change in landlord, I think what I'm trying to do through this recommendation is to establish a relationship with NNSA. We don't have any jurisdiction over NNSA, but to build a relationship with them to try to exercise our responsibility to see that these kinds of environmental problems from the past don't also become the future. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Hubert. Any questions or comments? All right, let's move along. We are now looking at the second recommendation. Since the recommendation with NNSA, we've actually had two more.
Yes, and I'm going to turn, you'll be relieved I'm turning that part of the program over to Candace Cave.
All right, Candace Cave Cab. The first one is about payment in lieu of taxes. I'm not going to read it to you, but I think I just wanted to help demystify some of the language and recommendations around PILTs and how it is allotted to communities. There's information online, but it's kind of like a bowl of spaghetti. It's kind of entangled up. Can't get a clear answer on certain things. So I think I would just like for it to be a little bit easier for counties and communities to decipher, but also just a lay person who wants to look it up on the DOE website or something like that. I don't like to, in the recommendation, I think my main goal was to have a structure that was reviewed regularly to determine, to make sure that communities were getting basically a fair shake at it. I don't like to use vague terms like regular or temporary, but I feel like it was important to kind of leave some leeway in there for the government, DOE, to determine how often they could update this structure, whether it was annual, biannual, every 5 years or whatever. I think that was it. Does anyone have any questions about this? I know this is a new discussion we're having.
Okay. Anyone? Okay. Well, I guess we'll move along. So Candace, I will direct this back to you for the discussion of annual compensation for high-level storage hosting.
Okay, so I have been, if you come to the board meetings, you will notice that I often have a question about temporary storage, interim or whatever. I always have a question about the storage and how long it's going to be at SRS. And I know that there's a plan for a federal repository, but it seems like it has been very prolonged. And while the federal government is deciding and trying to figure out the federal repository situation, communities like Aiken County, Barnwell County, and other places are still holding on to this waste that is supposed to be somewhere else eventually. And in my mind, I'm like, what if in the worst case scenario, if something does happen? Do we have to wait until funds are allocated from the federal government if there's a cleanup or an emergency, or will the money already be in our community that we can quickly access? And I could not find a clear answer on that either, so that's why I wrote this recommendation. There is some kind of precedent for this kind of payment for storing high-level waste. The federal government does pay commercial entities to store their waste as well. And so that's just kind of my thinking along that. It is a recommendation. I would be very surprised if DOE accepts it. But I do feel like it is important to put it out there and to let our leadership know that we are concerned about this and that we deserve some type of compensation for storing this high-level waste in our community longer than what we expected. At this point, it's been like since, 80, 89, 90, something like that. That's almost older than me. That's a long time. Any questions? Concerns, comments? Great.
Just keep these recommendations in mind for tomorrow. All right, anything else? Any other discussion? No? All right, well, we've now come to the portion in our agenda where we have public comments. And so I open it up to our audience. And the first name that I have signed up is Miss Karen Morrow. No? Oh, okay. Oh. What about Tom Clemens? Same deal? Ah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell, for calling on me, and to the CAB members. I've been involved in Savannah Riverside issues since the 1970s. And one of the first big things that I was involved with was the environmental impact statement on the restart of the L reactor. And I think that final EIS was 1984. So it's been a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff come and go here. I appreciate you guys, particularly the questions you ask. The ones today, I encourage you to keep asking them because they're very important and DOE needs to be held accountable. I wanted to further comment on 3 particular things that either did or didn't come up today. Number 1, regarding the Freedom of Information Act, I have filed, I don't know, over 100 FOIAs with DOE, a lot of them over the years. And I can tell you it's hard to get information out of the DOE for information that we paid for that doesn't necessarily have a security aspect to it. So the question, are the contractors responsive to the Freedom of Information Act? And I'm going to tell you, as a member of the public who files for documents that the contractors prepared with our money, the answer, unfortunately, is no, all too often. And I just had a denial of a FOIA request. I appealed it to the Office of Hearing and Appeals, and they said that the contractor was Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, was not required to deliver that because it was something that they contracted to do. But it was with DOE money. It was regarding the preparation of Critical Decision 2 on the cost and design of the plutonium pit facility. And the Office of Hearing and Appeals said the contractor was not responsible to provide it because it was prepared for their deliberation and not for the public. Hey, we paid for this. I cannot understand for the life of me why DOE tries to shield FOIA responses that the contractor prepares. Unfortunately, that is what happens. And they, in a way, they stymie FOIA requests that I might file because I know they're not going to provide it, even though we paid for the documents to be prepared. It's an ongoing problem at the Department of Energy. The second thing I wanted to discuss, and this, your recommendation on the NNSA official to attend CAB meetings kind of gets to this point, but you didn't put it in here specifically, but I suggest you ask this. And it's not much discussed, although it might have been in Mr. Miller, is that your name? You may have touched on it. What is the environmental liability, the cost of the environmental liability at the Savannah River site? And it's hard to find this out, but there are mentioned a couple of places, and I think it's on the order of, I don't know, 90 to over $100 billion is the environmental liability. At Hanford, I don't think I'm wrong about this, but it may be $500 billion. So where is this money going to come from? And I'm concerned that in transferring SRS from EM to NNSA, it might be a way to push the environmental liability to the side and not finish this 2065 cleanup that was discussed. So 40 years from now, and this is in current dollars, is EM side of things going to be getting $2.5 billion a year? And as DOE has admitted, these liability costs only go up. So I encourage you, in whatever discussion with NNSA, to ask what the liability is. Is NNSA going to take this on, or is EM having a lesser role, particularly after 2037 when the tanks are supposed to be closed? Where's the money coming from? And of course, nobody can ever say that Congress is going to appropriate this, but I'm concerned that this transfer in management is a little bit of a way, until I hear otherwise, to get out from under the liability, and that we all want the site to be cleaned up and the risk to be reduced. So please keep asking questions. On the final point I want to make is NNSA's role at Savannah River site is for producing new nuclear weapons, the pits for new nuclear weapons, initially 2 nuclear weapons, then more nuclear weapons, and then for replacing the pits in all the nuclear weapons. 80 pits per year at Los Alamos and Savannah River Site is for keeping a very robust nuclear weapons stockpile. With increasing tritium production by the Tennessee Valley Authority, all of which is processed at Savannah River Site, it's to keep those little tritium canisters charged up in all the nuclear weapons. And I'm quite concerned, what impact is this having with Russia and China on a new nuclear arms race? And that's happening. And Savannah River Site is a key. And I encourage you to ask questions about it now that NNSA is taking over. They might not want to discuss it very much. And you know, just to add one more thing, and I'll close here, the projected cost to update and turn the old MOX project plant, the MOX plant into a pit plant, in the DOE budget last year, it was up to $25 billion. Who is driving these costs? Is it the contractors driving the costs? And it well could be. And we have lost journalism about these issues. The Aiken Standard no longer delves into this stuff, and nobody else in the state is doing a deep dive into the things I've raised here. It's most unfortunate. So I think that means the CAB has a growing and more important role in your asking the questions in a way to fill in for what the media is no longer doing here. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it very much. And you are serving the public interest by keeping asking the hard questions that we heard asked today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens. Does anyone have any additional questions, comments, concerns? All right. Well, that was a productive day. Ms. Phyllis, when you're ready.
All right, I'm not going to gavel out because we'll meet again tomorrow morning we gather at 8:30 and begin meeting at 9.
You got it.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
You too.